So I don't really agree with that. First off, I write urban fantasy, and my characters make terrible decisions all the time. They do not make the right choices all the time. But more importantly, I think that in a lot of horror, not all, but a lot of horror, the characters, there is no right decision, and that's part of the creeping dread in a lot of those stories. Like, and I think it is a valid thing that in urban fantasy the characters are more likely to have the agency to change the story, like to make things go in a good direction, where they don't necessarily have that in horror. But I really do think at its core what it all comes down to is how powerless the point of view character feels in the situation. Like, what got me on this kick was actually someone talking about Buffy the Vampire Slayer, the series, and talking about how they described it as a horror series. And I didn't think that was accurate, because I think, I mean, there are horror elements to it, but it is primarily an urban fantasy series, because Buffy Summers is, if anything, empowered throughout the show. And because of that, even though the character in specific situations is afraid within the story, it is not a story about Buffy feeling helpless and feeling scared and running away. It is a story about, like, if you put her in the room with the monster, 9 times out of 10, the monster's the one not walking out, and you, as the viewer of that show, have that experience. You're not afraid for Buffy in those stories most of the time. That's why when they do subvert it, like when, say, she fights Glory in season 5, that, you know, that you are overturning the expectation of the viewer in those situations. The difference between horror and urban fantasy, I think, really still just comes down to, again, how we are meant to feel as we identify with our point of view character. Are we meant to be afraid for them, or are we meant to, like, are they our hero driving the story instead? And it's that point of view, the emotion we're meant to feel with that point of view character. That is the fundamental difference between the genres. Urban fantasy can be scary, but its primary intent is not to scare you or to evoke those feelings of horror, like a horror story would. And that's I think that's the key difference.